Welcome back to hour number 2 of the Gary Sutton Show here on WSBA. I am Gary Sutton. Brian Dean at the controls today, as he always is, navigating the ship through troubled waters of 3 hours of the show. He's sitting over there laughing his head off. Anyway, great to have you here on a Wednesday morning. And we enter the second hour as we talk to Dale Buckner, who has an MBA. He's a certified financial planner, author of Make Money, Think Rich, Take Advantage of the Natural Stupidity of Other Investors. And a lot of us have been watching the roller coaster, which is the stock market right now, and saying, what is this all about? Is this just a correction? Is there something else out there? Is there another crash on the horizon? And what will the individual investor really need to know right now to kind of move forward? And we welcome to the show Dale Buckner this morning. Dale, great to have you on the Gary Sutton Show. How are you?
Very good, very good. And I actually had somebody I was visiting with a few days ago that said, this is exactly what they said in 1929, that it's going to be just okay, just keep investing and stay calm, and it's all going to be all right. And needless to say, that person was not there in 1929, so they really didn't know what was being said. But this is just a normal correction. This is as common as dirt, Gary. This is exactly what we were hoping for. In the professional investment world, we were hoping for a correction.
Talk a little bit about, from the investment world standpoint, what correction means. I've had a couple people give us their definitions. I want to hear from you what that means and what that means to the individual investor out there.
The correction means that the overall indices have gone down approximately 10% or more. Now, you go into a bear market when it's over 20%. You go into a recession when it's more than 30%, and you go into a depression when it's more than 40%. So you kind of get into the opinion that normally once a year we have a correction of 10% or more. When we don't have that, it's harder to go to a new high.
So we have stocks right now, in essence, then, that are pretty much overvalued, that are coming back down to where the common man has a little bit of access to them. Is that a fair statement?
Well, yes. This is in a very strange sense, and why I wrote the book, Make Money, Think Rich, was to change the way you think about this. Most people have a reaction when they read their statement, they see their accounts down. It's called fight or flight. Now, there's even a more serious one called survival mode, reflex. That means they will throw everything away. They will completely sell at any price, regardless of what the real value is. They'll sell their perfectly good stuff cheap to somebody that's rich that has the money to buy it.
So they take kind of the Ollie's approach there. Good stuff's cheap, right? And so you sell off, or do you stand pat? You know, I've heard a lot of people say, sit still. I have an advisor who calls and will let me know where things stand. They'll say, don't get jumpy. This is what's happening, and goes through the whole thing with us and explains it out. But, knee-jerk reactions, it would seem to me, can destroy what would be a long-term investment strategy, wouldn't it?
Oh, you're wise beyond your years. That's exactly the message is, don't sell at the bottom. You buy at the bottom. Now, frankly, I was telling folks to get a little bit more conservative in June. There wasn't you couldn't tell anything from what was happening in June that you're supposed to get more conservative then, but that was about the peak of the market. That was about what was happening. And now, needless to say, I'm not giving this advice for individuals to take it.
Understood.
Yeah. No, this is not I'm not giving you the advice as you're listening to this, but essentially, if you took that advice and you were more conservative, now you're ready to go in and take advantage of the natural stupidity of everybody that wants to sell their good stuff cheap.
And so that's the natural stupidity you talk about, the people that are willing to, trash out the things that they already have right now because they're just worried to death. And it's like you go to the dance and you're looking to come home with Miss Right, and instead you come home with Miss Right now.
Well, you really have a bigger problem here for a lot of folks, that they get into the gambling mode. In other words, there's the fear mode is awfully damaging. The gambling mode can be damaging. You really need to stay with that balanced portfolio of investments. You could have been a little bit more conservative with some short duration bonds and a few of maybe some money market on the sidelines. things that are a little bit more conservative, those are the things that now you should be considering putting back into a more aggressive position.
From your vantage point, you talked about back in January, you were saying this thing about, be a little bit more conservative with your whole portfolio and everything. What are some of the things that go into your thinking when you look at that kind of thing? People, I think, are always intrigued.
Oh, great. It was actually June.
I'm sorry. Forgive me, June.
Really, what I was seeing, and this is just an observer, I'm just like everybody else, I'm just reading the news. Janet Yellen said that the stock market was overvalued, and the stock market immediately went down 3%. And now, in a strange way, we were expecting it to go back up 4%, but it didn't. So I was seeing, just observing, that the psychology of the market had changed a little bit, just a fraction from May to June, just a fraction. And that's when we really start. If you're going to sell, you want to sell it at a higher price.
Absolutely.
That's when we were seeing the prices were higher, but they weren't going to an all-time new high. That's when I started watching this. In addition to that, there's a whole lot of science out there that says that the summer is volatile. Mm-hmm. That the summer, and so I'm saying, well, for me, for my account, I may want to get more conservative right now. If it's going to be a volatile summer, I don't know that it will be. There was no evidence at all that the things where China was going to blow up. There was no evidence that the U.S. stock market was going to have a correction. There was none of that. You just come back in and you say the psychology of this market was starting to break down, and get out before it really breaks down. If you get out now, you're selling out at the bottom.
Let me ask you a question. What has the qualitative easing done to the markets? A lot of people would say, well, qualitative easing has really not helped an authentic recovery here in our country as far as the economy, but it certainly helped those investing in the market, and the market then becomes inauthentic. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I don't know. When I come back in and I start looking at all of this money that was manufactured,
right,
it was in bonds. Those bonds are self-liquidating. They have interest going back into the U.S. government. The government actually has the second highest amount of money coming in after taxes is interest on bonds. So our government is actually making a profit off of the money that they made up. Every time they get a payment, that part of the principal comes back in interest, and then it liquidates itself and it'll go away. So as we go through this, all this money that was invented is going to eventually be paid back by the U.S. government, and they're going to receive interest while they did it. So it is a stimulus that is slowly being taken away. They're not issuing anymore. But I almost have to. Do I have time to change a little bit here?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Because
sure.
Listen to this. The rest of the governments around the world are stimulating their economy. China is stimulating its economy with low interest rates and devaluing their currency. Europe is stimulating their economy with low interest rates. This is 28 governments around the world are stimulating their economy. So as you go through this process of saying it's only the Fed, there's only one place in the world to invest, you really have to look at the whole world. We're less and less percentage of the overall stock market or market value in the world. The United States, although it's not that we're getting smaller, we're getting bigger. It's just that everybody else is getting bigger quicker.
But to extend your thought process there, in a global world, in a global market where we're kind of all tied together now in some way, shape, or form, you look at this and you say, okay, if they're all doing the same kind of thing we were doing for a while, don't we all come to a point in time where somehow we have to get back to what is really real, what is really authentic here in the long run? Is that a fair statement?
So
I'm saying authentic.
Let me rephrase that.
Go ahead.
Are we in danger of being overstimulated?
Thank you. You said it much better than I could.
Okay, yeah. And the answer is yes, we could overstimulate. absolutely. That is a danger. We're not seeing evidence of that right now. The evidence is that we have high inflation.
Right.
The evidence is that we have wage inflation. The evidence is that we have a tendency for our currency to be devalued. It's sort of the opposite. I mean, the U.S. currency is still the de facto currency of the world. I realize that China would love to have their currency be the de facto currency of the world. Can you trust them?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't trust them.
No, not at all.
I mean, so I'm going to let's take a leap of faith. Let's put all of our money in Chinese currency. It was just devalued, folks. That means you were in Chinese currency. You just lost money.
Exactly. And so it's interesting that you're saying it's going in the other direction rather than this one. When you look at China's economic health right now, and how a lot of people are pointing to China as kind of, let's use the word, inciting market turbulence, what are we seeing there?
Well, I'm actually very... Well, I don't want to really endorse purchasing China. It's such a crazy place. I really prefer to have a balanced portfolio of investments. I kind of when we start talking about whether it's a great time to buy China or not, I really feel very uncomfortable giving that message to your audience.
Well, I'm really kind of asking why is China's economic health really kind of causing a lot of this turbulence out there?
Well, it's such a small percentage of the exports that we send around the world. It's not nearly our largest export partner. So let's assume that they actually have a recession in China. You're less than 0.1% of the exports. If China had a 10% recession, they actually shrunk by 10%. We would still only have 0.1% of our economy would be of our exports, which is a small portion of our economy. Most of our economy is consumption by our consumers in the United States. It's 78% U.S. consumers. So as we go through, at least that was the last figure I saw. So,
right.
But so it's U.S. consumption that runs our economy. That's doing really well. Unemployment's getting in, close to 5%. It's not quite 5%. Sometimes it's a little bit higher than that, but unemployment's really nice. Housing starts are really picking up. I don't know whether we haven't talked about Harrisburg, but
right.
I think the economy is doing a little better right now, and maybe the real estate's doing a little bit better.
But wage increases are still lagging behind quite a bit.
Yes, they are.
And
they are.
I want to talk to you about that when we come back. We're going to take a very quick break. We are with Dale Buckner this morning, who's a certified financial planner, author of Make Money, Think Rich, Take Advantage of the Natural Stupidity of Other Investors. And he's with us here on the Gary Sutton Show as we talk about the stock market and some of the financially related things to all of that here on the Gary Sutton Show. Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA. We're with Dale Buckner this morning, an MBA and a certified financial planner, author of Make Money, Think Rich, Take Advantage of the Natural Stupidity of Other Investors out there. In other words, don't sell low and buy high, right?
That's what we like to do. I mean, it sounds so logical when you start talking to somebody. You sit down with somebody, say, what's your goal? And that's, well, I want to pay the lowest price for that stock or that investment. And then you say, well, so what do you want to do with it after it goes up? Well, I want to sell it and make a profit.
Sure.
And then they do exactly the opposite. They're hardwired to panic when everything's low. They go into survival mode. They'll sell everything at any price that anybody will give them. It's called capitulation. They capitulate. That means surrender for slaughter.
That's exactly right.
You're sitting there going, I'm sitting there. I literally watch in amazement when record amounts of people sell their good quality stocks and investments at record low prices right at the middle of a capitulation event. They didn't read my book, obviously.
Well, and they should have done that to start out with. Let me ask you a question, because we just have a few minutes left here. Do you see what is happening right now with the stock market? Do you see this as signs of a long-term issue or short-term? In other words, you mentioned it is a correction, and it's kind of what we've been looking for and what some people wanted. Is it just part of the cycle? You know, we hear about that, every 18 months or so we see these kind of corrections. What's your thought on that, Dale?
Well, it's supposed, if we have a perfect script, we never do. It's supposed to have a correction in August and September.
Okay.
All right. Now, if it is a perfect script, and it never is, then we're supposed to have a year-end rally starting in November. Now, it's so logical why we have year-end rallies. It's all the profit in America is made during the Christmas season.
Uh-huh.
So if we have a normal Christmas season or an exceptionally good Christmas season, then the reports will come out. However, July the 1st, every corporation put out a semi-annual report that hedged every bet they ever had. So right now, every analyst is reading a semi-annual report that says, well, we may not have a Christmas. You know, problems in China may be happening. We're going to have a strike.
Okay.
Every hedge bet comes out in that semi-annual report, so they have a tendency to be more negative. The annual report that comes out January the 1st, that is read pretty much the next 6 months, comes out and it says, we had a great Christmas. Things were really good. We didn't have a strike. We just hired a new CFO or a CEO or whatever it is, and our promotion, we're getting ready to introduce the new watch or TV or phone or drug or whatever it is. They come out with that wonderful report that kind of states things are going to be really good. And so everybody has a tendency for that, to the extent that there is evidence, and it's called the sell-in May and go away, and the year-end rally. The year-end rallies, which depends on which study you look at. Some of them start in September and go to February, others of them in November and go to May, and all over the place. You've got study after study after study. Approximately 90% of the gain in the U.S. stock market happens during the winter.
Wow. So,
or you know, you can go back from September to May, someplace in there, 90% of this, and then only 10% of the gain happens during the summer.
There you go. Makes some sense to me. Hey, people want to make some more sense of it. You can go check out the book, Make Money, Think Rich, Take Advantage of the Natural Stupidity of Other Investors. Where can people find your book, Dale?
It's on Amazon. We've got it on my website. Go to DaleBuckner.com. If you just have too much trouble, Google Dale Buckner. I'm coming up as the #1 Dale Buckner in the world. There's a lot of other authors that are Dale Buckner, but I'm still coming up as the #1 right now, and because of the book.
Right.
And but Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, it's 140 places that are selling the book worldwide. So
Pretty cool.
I sold one in Belarus.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well. So they're listing and reading everywhere. And again, the name of the book is Make Money, Think Rich, Take Advantage of the Natural Stupidity of Other Investors. Dale Buckner is the author. Dale, thanks for taking the time this morning. Some interesting insights, and we'll keep our eye on the stock market. I'm sure we'll be talking again.
Anytime.
Thank you very much. Dale Buckner with us on the Gary Sutton Show.